From the four corners of this land we call America the Beautiful, here is a fascinating look at the world around us. RV trips of adventure, discovery, and beauty to find some of the most beautiful and unique places, people, and events on American Odyssey. Join us now as we leave the freeways behind and head for the back roads of America to discover what's just beyond the next bend in the road. Welcome, my backroading friends. This time we're off on a backroad adventure through the gold country of California's appropriately named Highway 49. You'll see where it all started. We'll take a look at old Sacramento, and a 200-pound chicken will repel into a dark cave before your very eyes. Let's find out what it's all about. When you're on your way to California gold country, you're on your way into the Wild West, and you should look the part. That's me, isn't it?
Yeah. 304.
Some $30-odd later, which isn't too bad for a nice-looking hat, I tried it out on the streets of old Sacramento. I felt like a real Western dude. But you know, not one Hollywood talent scout stopped me to ask my name. I don't know, maybe it was the ice cream cone. It was none other than John Sutter, the man who started the gold rush, who was also the father of Sacramento. And the city started right here along the Sacramento River. Back in the old days, this was horse and buggy country. And today it's RVs and tourists. Okay, I promise I'm not going to give you a history lesson. But before we head out for the gold country, a quick look at old Sacramento is in order. After all, this is where a lot of the gold that the 49ers dug up was spent before most of it found its way to San Francisco. Oh, sure. You're going to find a lot of ticky-tacky knick-knack shops here, but what do you expect? This is a tourist mecca. Now, don't misunderstand. There's nothing wrong with a tourist mecca. After all, this is where the city proudly displays its history and its personality. And besides, it's a fun place to visit. One place I found fascinating was the Railroad Museum. Being in this museum brought back fond memories of chugging choo-choos and all aboard. If you're not a railroad buff when you enter, its immensity and drama just might turn you into one before you leave. The Capitol building in Sacramento is also loaded with California history and welcomes visitors. The history of the gold rush days is well preserved in this part of the building, and guided tours are available. In the gold rush days, the city's money was stored in this safe, rather than a bank like it is today. And you know, the city of Sacramento is, in my book, a really beautiful city. Leaving Sacramento behind and heading for the gold country means driving on some scenic roads. And to pull off the road now and then will reward you with beautiful scenery. We'll start our tour of the gold country here in the town of Columbia, which is now a state historical park.
My name is Fast Eddie.
Is what?
Fast Eddie.
How fast are you?
Well, I'm now known as Half Fast Eddie. That's what happens as you get older, you become half fast.
Tell me about it. I'm older than you are.
I know.
Well, you never know who you're going to meet in these parts. A look up and down the streets confirms that indeed it does rain in California. And that made my heart jump with joy because I'm from Seattle. In 1850, just 1 year after the discovery of gold, 2 fires destroyed most of Columbia. The residents, gold seekers of course, rebuilt the town primarily of stone and brick. Then when there was a fire, all they had to do was close the iron shutters and they were safe from the fire. Well, it doesn't look all that neat, but at least the town never burned down again. Where are you going?
I'm going over here to my garage, man.
Are you all through? Are you all through for the day?
I'm through for the day.
We were looking for a sausage.
It's been, you want one? Last chance.
Let's do it.
Would you like a Polish or Cajun sauce?
God, what's the difference?
What do we got?
With kraut.
Cajun's a spicy smoked pork sausage. Polish is mild.
Polish with kraut.
Okay, Polish with kraut. How about you?
I'm going to try the Cajun.
All right, there you go. That's the best way to have them. We'll fix you right up. Coldest beer in town.
And they're not going to get mad if they carry
No,
the
they don't get mad.
huh?
She comes down here all the time. You know, she brings me beer and I give her a sandwich.
You gotta keep pushing the wiener through so it doesn't slip out the other end. They've got everything for sale here, including fancy hats. Seems to me we've met this character somewhere.
Where's your diggings? Where's my diggings? I try to take everybody's diggings that I can. My diggings is down the Italian Bar Road. This is my great-grandpappy right over here, Phineas.
How you doing, young feller?
He's uglier than I am.
That's only because I'm better than you are.
Well, that's what he
And I've
tells
been at
us.
it longer.
That's right. That's because he's been at it longer than I have.
How come you ain't got me a dry spot to sit?
You can still do a little gold panning today. Only today you've got to buy your way into the Gold Pan Club. It's still fun, though. It's time to leave Columbia. In my case, in a comfortable motorhome. Whoa, wait a minute. Look what I spotted. An Indian artist gallery. And it comes complete with a real teepee. I looked at Rod Bearcloud's art, and I saw the indelible relationship of man and nature that Rod presents in his artwork. Just a few miles north of Columbia, I stopped to visit the Moaning Cavern. I found myself involved in an adventure I hadn't planned for.
That big hole right there behind the fence is the original opening to the cavern, or the natural opening, and it was first discovered accidentally by the Miwok Indians. Unfortunately, the remains of about 100 of them were found down at the bottom, And we do believe it was accidental as to how they ended up down there, not anything like sacrifice or burial or really anything along those lines. And that's mainly because of the time period that was involved. The first Indian fell in approximately 13,000 years ago, and then the last Indian approximately 200 years ago.
The spiral staircase is the easy way down into the bowels of the earth. I got talked into a more adventuresome way down.
In the air.
I'm going to be hanging from this.
From these two right here.
This is one of the more crazy things I've done in my life. Is this supposed to be loose?
It's wrapped here, and as you go down into the cave, these pull up tighter. So you need to reach up and separate them apart, and then they'll continue to move back up on you over and over again. If
You want to see a 200-pound chicken
just
take
lean
the
back,
short
you
way
wanna
down?
Sit down. You want to have when you go down this rappel. You want to.
Why don't you follow me down?
Yeah, you think about all kinds of stuff when you're out there, don't you?
I don't think I want to look down. Okay. Here's another fine mess you've gotten me into, Stanley.
Once I started down, it was impossible to change my mind. The only way out was down.
Well, it's the bar from the J-rack that's right on the rope.
Wow. I think I cheated death again.
Here in Jackson on Highway 49, which, besides being the county seat, are the Kennedy tailing wheels. What is a tailing wheel? Well, I didn't know either until I asked. I was told that back in 1912, a new federal law went into effect requiring that all mine tailings be impounded. That meant the mining debris had to be moved to an impound area. They did it by building these huge 58-foot diameter wooden wheels that moved 850 tons of gravel every 24 hours. Those old-timers were serious about looking for gold in them thar hills. Nearby is the small but very interesting St. Sava's Serbian Church. A walk through the adjoining cemetery revealed the history of this part of California. All of these people came from Europe to work in the gold mines of California. Many of their descendants still live here in Jackson. If you visit the cemetery, look for the mass grave of the miners that lost their lives in a mine cave-in. These are the men and women that helped to build America. A few miles north of Jackson is the town of Sutter's Creek. I took a walking tour of the town. A short walk down Eureka Street, and I stopped into Winkler's Gallery to inspect the local art. Bill Winkler, the owner, gave me a brief history lesson.
And one of them built this basement down here, and it doubled as a bank, was a pickup point for Wells Fargo, and he produced wine at the same time.
Oh.
So the guy that did the wine was...
It seems the basement used to be a bank during the gold rush.
They had a whole bunch of these little holes that are filled up now, but they used to have these little, like, early safety deposit boxes or something.
Oh, is that, what's behind that?
Well, if you reach back in, it's wide, it's fairly wide and up and down. I'm always afraid of spiders in there.
Not Black Widow, I hope.
Yeah, well, we have some around here. But they had filled them up because I think people were always gouging around to see if there was gold in there and whatnot. So.
As we headed north on Highway 49, we went through another small gold rush town, Amador City. Like all the others, Amador City is rich in gold rush history and folklore. A look around town showed a lot of the flavor, and in some cases, they called it like they saw it or smelled it. Just stopping every once in a while along the way to admire the scenery is well worth the few minutes it takes. And if you need an excuse, just say you want to stretch your legs. Better yet, don't say anything, just enjoy. Placerville looks like an interesting place to snoop around in. Coming down the hill into Placerville is a thrill in itself, so make sure your rig has good brakes before you travel the gold country. You don't need to add to your fun by flying through Placerville or some other gold town by mashing down on your brake pedal with your eyes bugged out like a stomped-on frog. Placerville was known in the old days as Hangtown for some reason. There's even a Hangtown Tavern on the main street. Now, as far as I know, they haven't hung anybody for a long time, but I wasn't taking any chances. I watched my driving very carefully. In the mid-19th century, Philip Armour was the butcher, Mark Hopkins was the grocer, and John Studebaker built wheelbarrows. All three went on to fame and fortune thanks to the gold rush. Next up was Coloma. I pulled into a beautiful RV park here and took a walking tour of... Oh, I didn't tell you, did I? This is where John Sutter had his sawmill. His partner, John Marshall, discovered gold right here in the American River. In fact, it was right here on this spot where these kids are panning gold that the California Gold Rush was started.
What are you going to do with all your money?
I'm gonna buy a Ferrari.
Put the pans down, kid. We don't want to start another gold rush.
You don't have to rub it.
The day I was there, a local school had a field trip in progress. These kids looked like they were eating up the history of Sutter's Mill and California history. Poor Mr. Sutter. Did you know that he died back on the East Coast trying to protect his claim while everybody out here was digging up his gold? That's quite a story in itself. Sutter's Mill is now a state park, and if you know the history of Sutter's Mill, all the remains you'll see here will come to life before your very eyes. I'd like to take just a moment to thank Fleetwood, makers of fine motorhomes, for use of the Tioga motorhome they loaned me in the making of this show. They're manufactured in nearby Chico, California. After I got my Tioga hooked up and settled in, a group of firefighters from San Jose invited me to join them on a rafting trip down the American River. Well, I've never been known to turn down a fun adventure. Oh, tight squeeze. The run down the American River was fun. This isn't the Colorado through the Grand Canyon, but you can get a pretty good ride just the same. When I got back to camp, it was time for the campfire and weenie roast that I'd been waiting for. What a nice way to end a nice RV trip through the gold country of California, with nice people all along the way. Well, by golly, our time has run out, just when I was starting to have some fun. Tell you what, see you next week for another backroad fun trip on American Odyssey. Well, I enjoyed the back roads of California. I hope you did too. The only gold I found was beautiful scenery and the friends I made along the way. As far as I'm concerned, that's the only gold that's worth its weight. Join me again next week. Who knows where we might wind up. Thanks for riding along with me on American Odyssey.